You're 61. You're a nurse. You've spent 34 years keeping other people alive, and now you're standing in your bathroom at 5:47 a.m., staring at a sticky note on your mirror. It says 1,461. That's days, until 65, until you're allowed to stop. You update the number every morning with a Sharpie. You started at 2,556. Now it's 1,461. And somewhere between then and now, you logged into your retirement account and saw $212,000. And you did different math. 20 years of retirement. That's $10,600 a year, $883 a month, before healthcare, before anything breaks down, including you. Every morning, 2 numbers, the days until you're free, and the dollars that say freedom might be a word for people who planned better or were born luckier. But here's what nobody told Diane. That's her name, and we'll come back to her. Nobody told Diane why the number is 65, who decided it, and what they were actually trying to accomplish when they did. Because it wasn't her. It was a dead German chancellor with a moustache that could bench press a Volkswagen. The year is 1881. The place is Germany. And Otto von Bismarck, chancellor, architect of the modern German state, man who once described universal suffrage as a terrible idea he'd already committed to, has a problem. The workers are angry. Not mildly annoyed at the commute angry. Marxism is spreading across Europe and people are talking about revolution angry. Bismarck is a conservative, a monarchist. He needs to take the air out of the socialist movement without actually giving workers power. His solution? Give them a promise instead. He gets Emperor Wilhelm I to write a letter to the German parliament proposing something unprecedented, a government-funded pension. You hit a certain age, you stop, the state pays you. Revolutionary concept, genuinely radical. The retirement age he set? 70. Now, here's the part they don't teach you. Average life expectancy in Germany in 1889, the year this became law, was approximately 40 years old. Bismarck promised every German worker a comfortable retirement, knowing the overwhelming majority of them would be dead 30 years before they could collect a single penny. That's not a pension plan. That's a marketing campaign. It's the 19th century equivalent of a gym offering free membership to anyone who can bench press 400 pounds. Technically generous, statistically irrelevant. And it worked. The socialist movement lost momentum. Workers felt seen. The state barely paid out. Bismarck kept power while looking compassionate. Political theatre dressed as social progress, and it became the template for every retirement system that followed. That retirement age of 70? It stayed there until 1916, lowered to 65 during World War I. Not because of a breakthrough in geriatric science, because the war had gutted the economy, and 65 was a number that made the accounting work. By then, Bismarck had been dead for 18 years. The most important number in your financial life, the one you've been planning around since your first HR orientation, exists because of a war, a political stunt, and an actuarial table. Not because anyone studied when humans wear out. Not because a doctor said 65 is when the body says stop. But the real magic trick isn't what Bismarck did with that number. It's what America did with it. 1935, the Great Depression. A quarter of Americans are unemployed. Old people are starving. Roosevelt needs a national retirement system before more radical proposals build enough momentum to become law. He creates the Committee on Economic Security. Their job? Design the system. Their first question, what age? Now, the myth is they picked 65 because Bismarck picked 65. The Social Security Administration itself has debunked this. Their own website says, and I love this, with all due respect to Chancellor Bismarck, he had nothing to do with it. So how did they pick 65? They ran the actuarial numbers, and they found that 65 was the age at which the system could be made self-sustaining with, their words, only modest levels of payroll taxation. They didn't pick the age that was best for workers. They picked the age that was cheapest to fund. Average life expectancy for an American male in 1935, about 59. For women, about 63. The system was designed so that, statistically, a large percentage of the people paying in would never collect. Sound familiar? It's Bismarck's trick with an American accent. And that system, designed in 1935, based on 1935 life expectancies, funded by 1935 math, is still, with minor adjustments, the system you are depending on right now. The retirement age has inched from 65 to 67. Life expectancy has moved from 59 to 77. The gap between when you were supposed to die and when you stop getting paid has exploded. And nobody recalculated the equation. Nobody, but the people who manage your money, have noticed. Which brings us to Marcus. Marcus is 29. Marcus works in software development. Marcus makes $94,000 a year, which in 2026 means he can afford a one-bedroom apartment and the emotional burden of knowing he'll never afford a house in the city he lives in. Marcus has a Roth IRA. He opened it after watching a TikTok where a 23-year-old in a backwards cap explained compound interest with the energy of a man defusing a bomb. Marcus puts in $200 a month. He checks the balance every 48 hours. His current balance? $11,400. When his girlfriend asks about their future, Marcus says, "Babe, we're going to retire at 50. Marcus has not run the math. Let's run it for him. $200 a month, 7% average return, 36 years. Marcus ends up with roughly $398,000. That's more than most Americans will ever save. The median for all families is $87,000. Now let's see what $398,000 buys. A single person retiring at 65 in 2026 will spend, on average, $172,500 on healthcare over their remaining lifetime. That's the Fidelity estimate, and it doesn't include dental, vision, over-the-counter meds, or long-term care. For a couple, $345,000. Marcus's entire Roth IRA, 36 years of disciplined saving, almost exactly covers healthcare. The whole IRA. One expense category. Rent, food, existing. That's a different account he doesn't have yet. Now, Social Security. The average monthly benefit in 2025, about $1,900. That's $22,800 a year. The federal poverty line for a single person, $15,650. Social Security puts you $7,150 above the poverty line. That's not retirement. That's survival, with a thin margin for exactly one emergency. And here's the number I've been holding. For a healthy 65-year-old couple retiring in 2026, projected lifetime healthcare costs are $955,411. Their projected lifetime Social Security, approximately $802,000. 84 cents of every Social Security dollar goes straight to medical bills. Your Social Security check isn't retirement income. It's a healthcare subscription with no money left over for food. That $1,900 a month, it was never going to fund your retirement. It was going to fund the healthcare industry. You're just the conduit. The money passes through you on its way to someone else's balance sheet. And Marcus thinks he's ahead because the app shows a green arrow going up. Nobody told him the green arrow leads to a cliff with a hospital bill at the bottom. Now here's what should make you want to break something. Every single number I just gave you, the government already knows. They've known for decades. The Social Security Board of Trustees publishes a report every year. Every year, the actuaries say the same thing. The math doesn't work. The trust fund is shrinking. Benefits will have to be cut. The retirement age needs to move. And every year, Congress does nothing. Not because they disagree, because fixing it is political suicide. The last time anyone had the courage to meaningfully touch Social Security was 1983. The reform they passed raised the full retirement age from 65 to 67. Bold, right? Except they phased it in over 40 years. A 2-year adjustment spread across 4 decades, while life expectancy moved by nearly a decade in the same period. That's not a fix, that's a press release shaped like a fix. Since then, every commission, every trustee report, every actuarial study has said the same thing with increasing urgency. The number needs to move, and every Congress has buried it. Because telling voters, you will work longer than your parents did, doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. Because I protected Social Security wins elections. Because the gap between what the system provides and what life actually costs isn't their problem, it's yours. Meanwhile, the financial services industry, the healthcare industry, and the pharmaceutical industry live in that gap. That gap is their revenue. They don't need it fixed. They need you anxious enough to buy their products and too confused to ask why the number hasn't moved since your grandmother was alive. The financial ignorance of American adults is not a bug, it's a revenue stream. In 1960, there were 5 workers paying into Social Security for every 1 retiree collecting. Today, it's 3 to 1. By 2040, it'll be 2.5. Right now, 2024 through 2027, demographers are calling peak 65. More than 4.1 million Americans per year hitting the age a dead chancellor picked to solve a crisis on a different continent in a different century. And the trust fund? Projected to be depleted by 2033, 7 years from now. When it runs out, benefits don't disappear, they get cut by 23% across the board. That $1,900 monthly check becomes $1,463. And remember, 84 cents of every dollar was already going to healthcare. After the cut, it's not 84 cents, it's all of it. Diane, the nurse, the sticky note. Diane has a mother. Her name is Gloria. She's 84. Gloria retired at 65. That was 2007. She had $140,000 saved, which felt like a lot that year. Then 2008 happened, and it became $81,000. And she never recovered it because she was already withdrawing. You can't wait for a rebound when you're paying for groceries out of the account that's rebounding. Gloria lives in the same house she raised Diane in. 3 bedrooms, 1 person. The utility bills alone are more than they should be, but she won't leave. Her husband died in that house. His chair is still by the window. She dusts it on Thursdays. Gloria gets $1,874 a month from Social Security. Her savings ran out 4 years ago. That check is everything. And every month, Gloria drives to the pharmacy. She has 2 prescriptions to pick up. Her blood pressure medication and a prescription for her thyroid that her doctor says she shouldn't skip. This month, like most months, she can afford 1. She stands at the counter. She doesn't deliberate long. She's had practice. She picks the blood pressure medication because the consequences of skipping that one are faster and more obvious. She leaves the other one on the shelf. She signs the little electronic pad. She drives home. She doesn't tell Diane. She never tells Diane. Because Diane already calls every Sunday and asks if she needs anything. And Gloria says, "I'm fine, honey. I've got everything I need." And that sentence is so practiced, it doesn't even feel like a lie anymore. It just feels like what mothers say. Diane's sticky note says 1,461 days until she turns 65. She thinks she's counting down to freedom. She's actually counting down to becoming Gloria, to standing at a pharmacy counter doing the same math her mother does, to choosing between her heart and her thyroid, to learning the sentence, "I'm fine, honey. I've got everything I need." The retirement age isn't a policy failure. It's the distance between a number someone invented to outmaneuver Karl Marx and an 84-year-old woman who can't afford both prescriptions. That distance is measured in phone calls where daughters ask and mothers lie, and both of them know it, and neither of them says so. So what do? 1 thing, not 5, not a framework. 1 thing, stop planning around 65. 65 is not your number. It never was. It's Bismarck's number. It's an actuarial convenience from 1935 that stuck around because no politician had the courage to update it, and an entire industry profits from the anxiety it creates. Your number is the age where your math works, your actual expenses, your actual savings, your actual social security benefit, not the vague idea of it, the number. Go to ssa.gov this week and look at it, not because it'll make you feel good, because the vague dread you're carrying right now is worse than any number on a screen. For some people, that number is 62. For others, it's 70. For Marcus, if he doubles his contribution, it might be 57. For Diane, it might be 68. 3 more years than the sticky note says, but 3 years that mean the difference between surviving and living. The point isn't to work forever. The point is to stop letting a number someone else invented for someone else's reasons dictate the most important financial decision of your life. Diane's sticky note says 1,461, but 1,461 is just a distance to someone else's finish line. It was drawn in 1916 by bureaucrats she'll never meet, imported in 1935 by actuaries who assumed she'd already be dead, and maintained in 2026 by a system that needs her to keep showing up and paying in without asking too many questions. She's been counting down for 3 years, counting down to a freedom that, without a different plan, looks a lot like her mother's freedom. The kind that comes with a pharmacy counter and a choice, and a sentence you learn to say so well it stops sounding like a lie. Maybe tomorrow she caps the Sharpie, puts it down, and instead of counting someone else's days, starts calculating her own. Otto von Bismarck has been running your retirement for 140 years. He's had enough of your time.